September 11th happened and changed everything. We have not had immigration law reform of any sort since that time. So we've ignored the problem. Congress has ignored the problem, hoping it'll go away. We have probably, they say 11 million people here without papers. It's probably close to 15 million people. Now, do you feel safe with 15 million people without driver's licenses, without IDs in your country? I think the answer is no. So I think we got to put pressure. I mean, I don't like the patchwork system these states are implementing. Immigration law is under the U.S. Constitution, Articles 1, 2, and 6, is under the exclusive jurisdiction of the federal government. You cannot have a system where states and cities are passing local laws to control a federal issue. Why is that? Why don't we? Why can't we absorb that? Because the nation has competing national priorities. We can't. What's going to happen when they arrest people who don't have papers in Arizona? They got to call ICE. ICE then has to come down, pick these folks up, and process them. What does that mean? ICE now has allocated resources to go arrest the busboy, and has to take resources away from going after the terrorists and the drug lords and the criminals that are here in the United States on immigration violations. We also have national priorities with dealing with foreign policy with other nations. Our immigration policy is part of that. What do you think is going to happen when we start targeting immigrants in this country, rounding them up, putting them in concentration camps like we did in the 1940s? What's going to happen when U.S. citizens are over in those countries? How are they going to be treated? What's going to happen when U.S. citizens who can't prove that they're U.S. citizens, with the police officers pulling them over, what's going to happen to them? They're going to be detained. They get pulled up over on Friday. They're going to be in jail for days until ICE can respond to document whether that person's a U.S. citizen or not. The bottom line is, in a global knowledge-based economy, our communities, local, state, and national, have to welcome global resources, including immigrants. And I'll conclude with this one. By the way, here's the lawsuit the U.S. Department of Justice filed against the state of Arizona. And it documents in much more eloquent fashion why, A, it's unconstitutional, and B, why it harms U.S. national interests. And also, it also talks about the Arizona Sheriff's Association, who says they don't support it. They say it undermines local law enforcement in trying to get the cooperation of immigrants who could be witnesses against crimes. But the welcoming piece is mentioned here in the lawsuit, and I'll conclude with a comment made in Michigan. Michigan is proposing similar laws on the Arizona. And here's one quote. Michigan has worked hard to recruit international investors and companies, as well as American high-tech businesses. They said created thousands of jobs. Why would we want to drive these investors away with a law that makes Michigan hostile to immigrants? Why would you bring your business to Michigan knowing that the police might stop you or your employees just because of how you look? This proposal will cost us jobs. Thank you.
You know, if I may, I agree with everything Richard just said, because I think he's very sharp on those kinds of issues. But it's more of a personal issue. I think we can think about this, but we're not putting any skin in the game because we don't see the faces of these people that are involved. We in this room probably wouldn't know an immigrant if he saw one, if it wasn't a person from our own nationality. That's real. But you have to be in a situation, I appreciate what the representative did, to look in the eyes of these people that are trying to find a better place to live. The NAACP is opposed to the Arizona law and supports the president's decision to sue them over this. And I think it boils down to a slippery slope that we're in this society. We're giving additional tools to people that may not truly understand the issue that could harm these folks that are trying to come to this country. And really racial profiling is at the base of it, because as I've heard this discussion, it's a huge class issue. Because as Richard talked about the high-tech jobs and the green jobs and all these folks that are going to be coming here, nobody wants to stop them anyway. It's that person that's coming across the border with 2 children to get a better life. And so I'm thinking that if it's not done at the national level, it's not going to happen effectively. And we as a people have to understand that it's bigger than just what we see. We truly do have to learn about the issue. We truly do have to meet some of these people and talk with them about why they came here. And every alien, I call it non-documented alien that comes here, undocumented, is not a terrorist. They are not a drug dealer, and we have to get that phobia out of our mind. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, these are the same things they said in 1865 about people that were in my family. And this is very personal to me. We come to this kind of comparisons because it's real.
Thank you. We're going to take another question.
We have a very long border with Canada and a lesser border with Mexico. Why is all the noise about Mexico and nothing in Canada?
because they're white and they're handsome, and it's North America. Yeah.
And they bring Canadian beer.
And they bring money, they bring education, they bring resources.
Yeah, I'd like to add one more thing. It's interesting you raise that question. We talk about the undocumented. We assume the undocumented all came here illegally, and that's not true. 40% of the undocumented population came here legally with a visa and overstayed. And by the way, one thing the Arizona law does, it criminalizes that action, whereas federal law does not. It is not a crime under federal law to be here with an expired visa.
You know, I want to say one thing. The scariest part, I've been in this job for 4 years, and Lynn mentioned it. The scariest part of what I've seen in my time in this job is police-community relations. I'm going to say it that way. And it has, generally in my case, it's a black and white issue, but it's not generally when law enforcement stops someone for the right reason. You're speeding, you're speeding. But once they stop them, they start down this road of intimidation, harassment, which always escalates to something more serious. And if you give a law enforcement person that in his heart has some problems, you give him these broad latitudes in this Arizona law, and it's really going to take it to a different level. There are law enforcement people in Arizona that are saying that it's unenforceable. Because one of the things you say is the person doesn't speak good English. The way they're dressed. I mean, they don't look at you in the eye. I mean, there's a lot of issues there that are too subjective to put in the hands of a person that may or may not be qualified or that has something in their heart that's going to keep them to doing something different anyway. I think it's a slippery slope. Once we put these kind of laws in place, it's going to be hard to go back. People are going to get hurt, and our nation is going to be worse off for it.
And you know, that's good. I understand what you're saying. As Richard said here, the federal government do their job, and I said this before, we wouldn't be discussing it. The federal government is not doing their job. They're looking the other way for many reasons. And that's part of the problem. The Canadian border, same way. My opinion is if we're going to have homeland security, which I don't believe we have homeland security. I mean, I got to go through hoops, and my grandma has to go through hoops to get on an airplane. But grandma can go to, she can't get in Mexico because they won't allow her in. No telling where she'd end up if she went to Mexico illegally. But if she came back through the border, there's nobody there to check her to see if she's armed, if she's carrying contraband, if she's doing this, if she's doing that. And that's where the disagreement is. The disagreement is not over the entrepreneurial spirit of the United States and the power of this country and how great this country is. That's not the thing. I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it. There are contraband and no telling what all coming across that southern border, possibly the northern border too, but the southern border. And if this country has to go through another catastrophe, and they know it came through the southern border, that border would be closed tomorrow because the uproar in this country would be unbelievable. That hasn't happened, and I pray that it doesn't happen. But I'm telling you, thousands and thousands of drugs that are destroying us a little bit at a time. Go to the Cuyahoga County Jail, see how many people are in there because of drug-related problems. I know what it is in Butler County. It's over 80%. We had a fellow the day before yesterday in a home invasion in my district in Hamilton, Ohio. An undocumented alien, if you want to call them, whatever you want to call them, an illegal immigrant, whatever it was. Broke into his home, beat him up. Life Squad got there, talked to him, discussed what the problems were. That's not out yet, what the problem was. The fellow died.